Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Ben Crossman, and I hope all of you are having a great day so far. And yeah, we had, first of all, I hope all of you had a nice, safe Halloween. I have definitely been keeping up to date on what's been happening in New York City. Awful. And, just really put a pretty bad, somber tone over Halloween. But at the same time, the festivities there did not cancel. And again, I hope all of you had a great Halloween otherwise. And of course, welcome into November. Lots and lots that we can, of course, talk about because, hey, we're heading into the holiday season. This is crunch time, and we have a number of great interviews lined up. Today, of course, we have Mike Cermak, owner and operator of techguy.org. And yeah, so we have that, as well as a couple of interviews coming up here in the next couple of weeks that you are really, really going to like. Not to spoil too much, but tomorrow we are actually recording a segment with Chevrolet, for their new cars, and talking about all the technology that goes into those. And of course, we have, many other guests. So keep an eye out. This is, about the time of year that we really start to get some very interesting guests. So check it out. And of course, if you want to keep up to date with anything and everything that we do here on the show, of course, check out computeramerica.com, where we have the show notes for shows such as today, where that will include links to, say, techguy.org or any articles that we cover, things like that. Also, be sure to check out the social media contest. That, of course, is brought to you by Logitech, and every single Friday we give away a prize. Just that simple. And then the last thing is the video portion, where you can watch Computer America and not just listen. Always fun, and be sure to check that out. So, like I said, though, today's guest should be no surprise to anyone who's a longtime listener, but if this is your first time, welcome into the show. And we have a great guest, as we have, of course, Mr. Mike Cermak. And he is, he runs a website. I mean, he has a couple of different jobs, but, his main claim to fame here on Computer America is the fact that he runs techguy.org, and that is our go-to place, that if anyone here on the show has any problems with their computer, we always be sure to, try and help ourselves. But if not, we send them over to techguy.org, and he has a great community of people who, answer questions, just, are very, very, interested in talking about technology and a lot of different things. You can, of course, check that out. So with that being said, welcome onto the program, Mr. Mike Cermak. Mike.
Thank you very much. How are you doing today?
Doing well, and sending an email. So with that being said, welcome onto the show again, and I hope that you are doing well. You've been well this past month, and yeah, lots to talk about.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Lots going on. How have you been?
I have been, and it sounds so small, but to me it makes a huge difference because we recently moved our offices from South Florida to North Carolina. And, it's a small thing, but instead of finding a wing place, because we had a couple of them in Florida and I love chicken wings, have not been able to find a good one here up in North Carolina. So I actually found a good recipe for chicken wings and I make them myself. And
that sounds like too much work.
You think so, but really about an hour worth of cooking and some of the best chicken wings I've had. So it seems like a small thing, but I've learned to make chicken wings and I couldn't be happier.
Do you deliver?
To the right people, absolutely.
for the right price,
absolutely. But but chicken wings aside, and of course, welcome into another edition of the show. And for anyone who has not been paying attention to Mike's past appearances, we've kind of morphed this into kind of talking about tech that excites us, and common troubleshooting problems, things like that. But yeah, we have a number of articles that you can find at Computer America. So, Mike, as the guest, I'll let you decide where, which one of these kind of has you interested.
Boy, I don't know. Let's see. I haven't gotten the email yet, by the way, but let's jump right into one of mine that I
Sure.
thought was pretty funny. Maybe you already mentioned it. I don't know, but the Microsoft Director installing Google Chrome kind of cracked me up.
Yeah, and yeah, I'm sure that you just sent that one, but I mean, I saw that the other day, and I saw some perfectly reasonable explanations for why it happened,
Yes,
but it's
correct.
still hilarious.
It is still hilarious. So yeah, and the guy handled it really, really well. So this guy was, doing a demonstration on data center transformation, migrating apps using Azure through Microsoft, and it's a Microsoft director who did it. But midway through his big hour-long presentation, he's trying to do something in Edge because, of course, he's using Edge as any good Microsoft employee would be. But he's not able to get some of the pages to load properly. And I guess he says during the video at least that it's because Edge is locked down on that on that device, so they have to install a different browser to get around it. But it really was kind of just a funny moment. You could hear the audience laughing in it. I'm sure you'll put a link out there so people can watch it. But it cracked me up, and he handled it very well though. And the punchline though, whenever he was installing Chrome, it comes up and it has that checkbox there saying, "Do you want to help make Google better?" By sending anonymous information to them. And he said, "No, we're not going to make Google better." And unchecked it.
Yeah, yeah. It was a very very small, like it was maybe 3 minutes out of like a 2 hour presentation. Just a small blip. And the reason that I had heard that something like that had happened was like he was using essentially. I know in like Firefox and Chrome, it's like private browsing or incognito that kind of doesn't put cookies and things in your, or makes you like a private browsing session. They were essentially using that type of environment for the Windows Edge. So like they were trying to run a program, and because they were in that private session that you couldn't create cookies and things like that, it was acting up. So it wasn't that Chrome just does it better. It's that his version or his session of Microsoft Edge just wasn't set up right to kind of do the presentation. So I mean, kudos to him for just finding a solution that quick. I mean, it was
Right, and he handled it
yeah,
very well. I mean, there's no doubt about it. It was just a funny moment,
yeah.
and everyone got a good chuckle out of it.
Yeah, and we'll definitely include a link because that was definitely funny. And it was yeah, and yes, I did see where
It
and
reminded me of the old videos where they were first showing off. Was it Windows 95 or where it blue screened on stage?
uh,
And it's just,
I have heard, and it's that thing about presenting that, I mean, what you see on stage is not indicative of the experience that you get, because I had heard tale about the first iPhone presentation by Steve
yes,
Jobs, and they said that it was such a problem device at the moment that they were presenting it, because obviously it was months out from actually selling it, that if you watch the presentation, he's actually getting new phones and kind of swapping things on the fly. It was because if you tried to switch applications on the original iPhone, the whole thing crashed. Like the whole thing was just, wouldn't work. So to prevent that, they were handing him like 6 or 7 different phones throughout the presentation so he could show off the different apps. I mean, it's so choreographed at some point that, you have to take it with a grain of salt that, it's more presentation and show than it is actual showcase of technology.
right.
It's showmanship.
Well, and inevitably, anytime you're doing a big presentation like that, you're sure to have a problem. I mean, that's just the way these things go. Anyone who's ever done any kind of presentation knows that that's what happens.
Absolutely. So yeah, but all in all, pretty funny. But so why don't we move on to this next topic here? And you're right, this is something that you didn't mention. And by the way, just hopefully, yeah, just sent you a bunch of links. But before we get into some of these other stories, though, I did want to cover, because you, I think, are the first person that's been on the show that has a Pixel 2 XL. We've done a couple of stories, one of them not particularly flattering of the 2XL, but I really wouldn't mind some initial reactions from this new phone.
Yeah, right. I'm really enjoying it. So I'm going just to give you some perspective. I'm coming from a Samsung S7 Edge, and really liked the S7. My biggest issue with the S7 was battery life. I couldn't get through a whole day without charging a couple of times. And granted, I'm a heavy user. I'm certainly not your average user. And so I was ready for a change and just to switch things up. And I missed the genuine Google experience. I had a Nexus and a couple different Nexus and actually and just loved having that genuine out of the box, no extra branding or skins or the extra manufacturer junk on it. I wanted just the Google, and so I was excited just to get plain old stock Android. And what actually happened is when I was on the show last month is the day that the Google 2 and Google 2 XL was being announced. And I was so excited. I said on the show, I said, I think I'm actually going to get one. I think I'm sold on it. And so I did. I ordered one, and I've really been enjoying it. So, to get into some of the problems with it, it's a great phone, and first of all, the camera is amazing. I mean, it's got portrait mode. I used that. My son's first birthday was just over the weekend, and was using the phone more than what you would expect, and got all sorts of wonderful pictures of it. And it just works really well.
Hmm.
Uh, and I just got an email, by the way. And
Good.
on my Pixel 2 XL while I have it in my hand. The screen, I think, looks fine. So there's a lot of issues with the screen. The first issue that came out is this kind of blue tint. So if you have the screen a little bit off axis, if you're looking at it at a little bit of an angle, you see a little bit of a blue discoloration to the colors. I think it varies a little bit from device to device, or maybe some people are just more sensitive to it than I am, but it really doesn't bother me. I can see it if I go at a sharp enough angle, but at a normal angle, I really don't notice it.
Hmm.
So that was kind of a non-issue for me. One thing that did scare me is when these stories started coming out about burn-in. So screen burn-in, for those who don't know, is when you have something displayed on a screen, whether it's a phone or a monitor or whatever, for a period of time that it actually causes those pixels to burn in or start to get used, and they fade a little bit over time. And this has been a problem since the beginning of computers, which is why we used to have screensavers. I mean, that's why screensavers were created, so that if you walk away from your computer, the windows that are open don't burn that image into your screen. It starts moving around and changing the pixels. And that's not really been a big problem with phones because of course the lifetime of a phone isn't that long anymore, or never has really been. But especially now that we have smartphones, the problem is on the Pixel 2 and the Pixel 2 XL.
Right? Oh,
Pardon
no problem.
me. Pardon me, I'm getting choked up just thinking about it. The problem is that at the bottom of the screen, where in a lot of Android devices it has the back button and the home button and the multitasking button, those buttons are not hard buttons on the Pixel 2 and 2 XL. They're actually software buttons. They're part of the screen. As I look at my wallpaper here, it extends all the way below those three buttons. And so as a result, anytime you're using the phone, with very few exceptions, maybe when you're watching a video full screen, those three buttons are there and burning into the screen. And I guess there's something with the AMOLED screen that they're using on these that makes it a little bit more susceptible to it than others. But yeah, that's the big concern right now.
Yeah.
I've done a couple tests on mine. I haven't seen any burn-in yet. I've only had it for about a week now, but some people have been seeing it within that short of a period of time.
Yeah.
And
And
Android has, I mean, Google has said that they're going to come up with a software update that's going to make those buttons not be full white all the time, that they'll fade a little bit. That way they don't burn in quite as much.
right.
And
And
they also extended the
oh,
warranty. Sorry. No, yep.
yeah, and that's the part that I really want to get to because a lot of we've seen this with a couple different phones, and things like immediately jumping to mind would be the Apple 3GS, where essentially you're holding the antenna wrong or something like that.
Right.
There's been other like Samsung phones and the batteries, and they tried to kind of downplay it. I think what makes this okay for Google is their response to it, where they said, this is happening with a select few devices, but they extended that warranty. And I'm sure that because you have one, you fall under that, but they extended the warranty to all Pixel 2 XL phones, not just the
Right.
ones that were experiencing the problems. So for like 2 years, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right. Yep, they went from 1 year to 2 years, and so I'm not particularly worried about it. To be honest, even the case of burn-in, of those 3 buttons at the bottom because they're always on the screen, doesn't really concern me too much because they're always on the screen. It's rare that you would have a case where you could actually detect that those have burned in, unless you're looking at a full screen picture, that's a solid color. But what is concerning is just how quickly it's happened. That within a week or two, people have been able to detect that burn-in, and that could mean that there, if it can happen that quickly, then it could be an issue.
Now, the reason that this is, this is only a problem, or at least some people believe it's only a problem with the 2XL, not the Pixel 2, is that the phone screens for the Pixel 1, the Pixel 1 XL, Pixel 2, those three were made by Samsung. And Samsung, I
Hmm.
think a lot of people believe, have some of the best AMOLED or OLED smartphone screens on the market. And then the 2XL was manufactured by LG, and they have their own AMOLED, kind of screen technology. Probably a cost-saving measure. LG probably gave them a better price than Samsung did, but some people are pointing the finger at LG, saying that they just make inferior, parts, which it
Yeah,
could
and
be.
and and it could be the OLED LED screens are a little redundant there, are relatively new. It's only within the last couple of years that we've seen Samsung really perfect it, and they have. I mean, it's really good on Samsung devices, but I think LG and other companies still have a little ways to go to get to the same level. Some of these same issues existed when Samsung were first, coming out with them, especially the off-angle viewing of the screen, and they've been able to get around that. So I think it's just a matter of time before we see other manufacturers start to be able to compete with it.
Right. Yeah. It's it definitely just takes time. I mean, it's only in like the last year, 18 months that we've seen anyone else try to tackle the OLED, even field. I mean, it was just Samsung, or I'm sorry, in televisions, I think it was like just Samsung or just Sony that was the only one offering it, and then now finally others. Like I guess it's just really hard. So, but anyways, Pixel 2 XL. So you like the camera? Um, what did you think about and we might talk about this a little bit on the last show, but are you missing the 3.5 millimeter jack? Because again, Google made fun of Apple for doing it, and then they turn around and do it with their very next phone.
Right, yeah, you're right. We did talk about it a little bit, and we suspect that it may be something to do with the waterproof rating on them, but I don't know because my S7 had I forget if it was a IP67 or 68 rating on it, and it had a 3.5 millimeter jack. But to be honest, I think I only used that jack maybe 2 or 3 times during the life of that phone. So no, I don't really miss it. I generally listen, in my car whenever I'm driving, I'll listen to podcasts through my phone, but obviously that's on Bluetooth. And I've got Bluetooth headphones I use at the gym, and sometimes when I'm working on, running wires or whatever. And that's about it. I mean, it's rare that I had any need to plug into a 3.5 millimeter. If, of course, it does come with the adapter that you can plug into the USB-C jack, but I haven't even pulled that out of the plastic.
Right. And this actually, kind of brings us to one of the other topics I wanted to bring up. And it's this idea that Microsoft has filed for a new patent. Of course, companies file for patents all the time. That doesn't mean that it's ever going to really become a feature of a phone, but it does relate to the fact that the 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, it is a standard. There are still lots of phones being manufactured with it. There's still lots of products out there that still use, headphone jacks. So I think the question for myself is, it's currently a standard. It's been around for decades upon decades. I mean, it still works. There's no real legitimate reason that it doesn't, kind of meet data transfer rates or something like that. It's not an old technology. So, for anyone out there watching the video portion, we're going to throw up the diagram. But I kind of wanted your reaction on this, Mike. Um, Microsoft has found a way, and it seems pretty simple, where essentially the place where you plug in the jack, so it can fit either a 6.5 or 3.5 or 2.5. It actually kind of molds. It's made out of a soft, flexible plastic, and you can insert any one of these jacks into the phone, and it will be able to read it, charge it, or use any of those products. I guess my question is, if they can make it because some people claimed it was for thickness. If you have a 2.5
Right.
millimeter phone, you don't want a 3.5 millimeter jack being this big bulbous thing.
Right.
Do you think that if they could shrink down the jack, or they could make it accessible for more than just the 3.5, do you think there's any reason to keep it around, or?
I don't think so. I mean, there are people who that is a deal breaker for them. I know people who won't buy a new, iPhone or a new Pixel because it doesn't have the 3.5 millimeter jack in it. But that said, I think they're the minority. I think it is something that's just going to fade away, just like PS2 ports and other things of the past. There's just not that much need for it anymore. By and large, I think most people are using Bluetooth. Now, it's an interesting thing they've developed here. This a plug that kind of hides itself and then expands when you stick a plug into it. Um, but I don't know the complication of that and the cost of that, and then the waterproofing of that. I don't know if it's going to make a lot of sense. I mean, there's going to be a part of the market that would pay anything to be able to have a 3.5 millimeter jack, but I don't know if it's enough people to make it worthwhile. And I don't know if they're going to want to buy a Microsoft phone anyway.
Well, that's a very good point. I mean, actually, it's a funny story. He, of course, my brother Aaron. For anyone out there who wants a Computer America twist of that, he was the original web developer for Computer America,
Uh-huh.
and he went out looking for a phone. And I don't know how popular his line of thinking is. I know that he's weird. I grew up with him, but he went out to go buy a new phone, and he went out to go buy a Nokia 3310. And for those of you who don't remember that, that was a huge phone back in the early 2000s. That it had got this reputation for just being a great phone that worked. And Nokia, their patent portfolio was purchased by Microsoft to make Windows phones. Windows sold off Nokia's patent portfolio to a company in Switzerland or something like that. And essentially, if you want a Windows phone, the closest you're going to get is essentially a Nokia phone. So he kind of chased Windows, and now he's going to go get a Nokia 3310. Yeah, he just doesn't want a smartphone. He says he's tired that every time he's walking for more than 2 minutes, every time he's sitting on a bus for more than 30 seconds, he pulls his phone out and he's distracted by his phone. And he says he's tired of that. I don't get
Hmm.
it, but that's just the way he feels. He feels that smart devices are just too distracting. I don't know.
That's interesting. I mean, I like it because I feel like I can still get something done. If I'm sitting in a doctor's office or sitting waiting for a meeting to start or whatever, I can, send off some emails, I can check my, do whatever. I mean, and you can control, a good bit as to how much you want to be distracted. You can choose not to have Facebook on your phone,
Right.
but
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess, hey, more power to them.
Yeah,
If
it's definitely a productivity tool to a lot of people, yourself, myself included. But yeah, so 3.5 millimeter headphone jack. You seem to be kind of off of it. Personally, it's Bluetooth does everything you kind of need, and I get that people have legacy devices and they really don't feel there was a need to other than to just ditch it. But hey, we got rid of the red, yellow, white, and the all the other connectors. So
RCA, right?
yeah. So maybe standardizing or at least having a standard, and that standard being wireless with mobile devices. Hey, maybe that's the way to go.
Well,
But
and I guess the biggest disadvantage of having to use Bluetooth headphones is worrying about the battery on it. You have to remember to charge it periodically, and you don't with 3.5 millimeter.
mhm.
But
Yeah.
I've
eh,
run into that a couple of times, to be honest, but it hasn't been a deal breaker for me, and I still prefer the flexibility of not having a wire.
and of course, to wrap up the Pixel 2 XL, does that have wireless charging? I mean, any other kind of key features other than a good camera and an okay screen?
Yeah, that's about right. It's remarkably fast. It does not have wireless charging, which is a bit of a disappointment as I look at my Samsung fast charger sitting in front of me that I can't use anymore. But the speed of this thing is just remarkable, and I don't know that I can chalk it up entirely to the processor. I think that the new version of Oreo helps that. But it's ridiculously fast. I should do a side by side comparison video sometime of them of just loading a couple apps and the most noticeable thing is when you reboot the thing, I mean, Samsung phones, I mean, not Samsung, Android phones take forever to reboot, but this thing, I mean, it just takes a couple of seconds. It may be 10 or 20 seconds and it's done.
That
It's
is,
it's
yeah,
it's
that's super
crazy.
impressive.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's I'm very, very pleased with the speed of it and the battery life of it, and could not be happier, to be honest. I'm pretty excited about it. I'm cautiously optimistic that the screen will be okay. The only thing I'm a little worried with that is the burn, and the other issues haven't been a problem for me. So I'm gonna
Right.
keep an eye on it.
Yeah. Well, of
Yeah,
course, it's your smartphone.
literally.
Yeah.
But
It's but no, it seems like a really really good phone, and the fact that on their website they claim 7-hour battery life after 15 minutes of charging. So
right.
obviously they're really trying to get the idea that even if you run out of battery, give it 15 minutes and you're off and you're off running again. So lots and lots of good things, and so I'm sure those are going to continue to be on sale. And hey, the Pixel, it's let's talk about price real quick, because compared to the other flagship phones, it's cheaper. It's $200 cheaper than the iPhone 10. It's $100 cheaper than the Samsung Galaxy S8. I mean, it's just a cheaper phone. So you like it. To wrap it up, you like it.
Yep, I do. I've been very pleased, and the only issue that I would want to keep an eye on long term is that burn-in issue. But I think that they're going to continue to improve, and yeah, I like it. I'm a big fan.
Right. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started on this next segment because we're about to hit our break. But I did want to, kind of check out this other one. And, you found a couple of stories that were more kind of that's silly or, kind of faux pas, thinking again to the, to the Microsoft employee who installed Chrome on the fly. This is, I think, in the same vein to a certain extent, where Dell and they forgot to renew a domain, and I believe it was for like system recovery or something like that. What happened? And just kind of break it down. Why did it happen?
Yeah, right. So Dell offers a Dell backup and recovery program that comes with a lot of their computers, and they sell it as a simple, safe, and reliable backup and recovery solution. And it's a cloud backup system. Basically, it allows you to back up your information. The problem is that they run it through a website called Dell Backup and Recovery Cloud Storage.com, and their domain name expired. They forgot to renew it. For anyone who doesn't own a website, part of what you do is every year, or you can pay ahead multiple years, you can buy a domain name, your .com, computeramerica.com, for example. They pay every year to own that name. And Dell paid every year to own this name and just forgot to renew it. and
Yeah,
and so so a third party kind of discovered that uh, and uh, and and acquired the domain, but
So,
they
and what could that mean for someone? Because I'm pretty sure when I first heard about this, it was that you kind of go through step by step, and this website, or at least your computer, redirected you to this website kind of automatically, or gave you the option,
right.
because like it's not just like, hey, check out this link and then they forgot to change the link. Like, this is something hard baked into the recovery process.
Yeah, into the program itself, right? Exactly, and so it conceivably could have been really bad for them. I mean, they've gotten use of it again now, but it could have been really bad because a cyber squatter or a malware, or I mean any number of things could have been put there, and it's easy enough to put a Dell logo on there and just say enter in your credit card number here, or enter in your username and password for your credentials or whatever. And I mean, by as far as anyone would be able to tell, it's a legitimate site. It's the right address. It's it could have been really bad. I mean, just something as simple as click here for an update for your backup software,
Yeah.
and make that be whatever you want.
Yeah,
So,
you
so
you
it
you could have done something as simple as like your flash is out of date, install this, and it was just simple flash malware. I mean, could have been anything.
right, exactly, and the fact that it was on a legitimate Dell website, that they lost control of that anyone could have put anything there, is just really bad. I mean, they really someone messed up.
But the funny thing is that this doesn't just happen to Dell, because, and by the way, folks, music means we're gonna take a break here. But just for everyone to think about, Google actually had their domain taken by a gentleman last year, where for about a minute he bought google.com because it was up for sale. And Google bought it back from him, but it happens to the best of us. So everyone, music means we're going to take a break. We'll be right back. Mike Cermak and more news right after this. Stay tuned.
Got an old car? You can donate it, whether it's running or not, to the United Breast Cancer Foundation and save a life. They'll even come and pick it up for free. The United Breast Cancer Foundation has saved hundreds of women's lives through their free or low-cost breast screen exams. But now they need your help. The United Breast Cancer Foundation wants to save more lives through early detection by offering women free or low-cost breast screening exams. And donating your old car, SUV, or truck, whether it's running or not, helps pay for them. Plus, you get a charitable tax deduction. Help the United Breast Cancer Foundation save lives by donating your old car, SUV, or truck. Call now for free pickup. 800-245-0473, 800-245-0473, 800-245-0473. Call right now. That number again is 800-245-0473.
Warning, don't let your business get left behind in what is likely to be the biggest economic boom in recent history. If you need to build for your business to grow, call General Steel today for a pre-engineered steel building designed for your needs. No wasted space. Steel prices are expected to rise, but you can still lock in your price on a General Steel building. And you can still save as much as half the cost and time of conventional construction. As much as half. But you must call now. If you need a church building, office, warehouse, manufacturing space, retail space, or more, call General Steel today. You can still get the General's 50-year structural warranty and General Steel quality, all at a price you can afford. So don't let rising steel prices put your project out of reach and stop you from making your company great.
800-614-7180. 800-614-7180. 800-614-7180. That's 800-614-7180.
And welcome back to the Computer America Show. It is, let me get this right here. It is 32 minutes past the hour as we continue on here with Mike Cermak himself. And of course, we're talking about a bunch of different things. And by the way, just a quick little follow-up about the gentleman who purchased Google.com from Google right underneath their noses. And again, he only owned it for about a minute. He didn't put up a fight, trying to hold Google ransom, which, by the way, had about $5 billion worth of, or at least what they said was $5 billion worth of essentially, kind of market value tied to Google.com. He gave it back willingly, and Google gave him about $12,000 for doing that, just essentially bug finding fees. And again, we're talking about Dell and their kind of problem. And you're right, since that story was posted, they actually reacquired the domain, now it redirects you to Dell, and yada, 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 no longer a problem. But you're right, it was definitely kind of funny. So
Yeah, it was funny. But
So-
and it's
oh,
just
go ahead.
something you need to keep an eye on. Like you said, it can happen to anyone.
Absolutely. So with that being said, we have a couple of different stories here, and one I kind of wanted to kind of get your take on, because we've talked about VPNs with you before, and the idea of using a VPN, they have legitimate purposes, and I actually know a number of people who work for large companies such as Autodesk and of course Intel, places like that, that if you work from home, which is ever more popular, they make you use a VPN, and VPNs have legitimate purposes. And yet, again, we're not going to get too much into the politics of this, but more into the technology side. Is this a good or bad thing that Putin outlaws the use of VPNs throughout Russia? So I kind of wanted you to react to that.
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, it's an obvious thing to do. I'm surprised they wouldn't have already done so. A lot of these governments that try to control the internet, try and control what content you can and can't view, will block the proxy sites, sites where you can go to try to get around a firewall. And to be fair, a lot of corporations and schools and places like that will do that as well. If you're in a K through 12 school that they have firewalls set up to censor you from being able to go to certain websites, which I think most people would think is appropriate in a school, they'll also block you from going to proxy sites or going to VPNs that allow you to go around that and see, all of the content of the internet. So that's the same thing they're trying to prevent here, is that they have firewalls on a national level in Russia and North Korea and other countries
China.
like this where China, right? China's a perfect example, right? Where you can't just see anything on the internet like we can. They can only go to approved sites, or at least not to blacklisted sites, depending on the particular place. But there's always ways to get around that. Proxies and VPNs are ways to get around that. And also VPNs are used by people who want to pretend that they're in one country or another. I have a friend of mine who's in the service and is overseas, but can't watch Netflix because he's in, wherever
Yeah.
overseas. So he uses a VPN to connect to a server in the U.S. so that he can watch Netflix. And it's like, well, you're going around the intent of, the law there. They're not allowed to, for whatever copyright reasons, show it there. You're not allowed to use it in that country. But so there's a lot of people who do this, and it's not surprising that it would be made illegal. If they're going to censor the internet there, then the only way to really do that on a technical level is to prevent people from getting around that firewall.
Yeah, and more to your point about Netflix, I mean, I think it was earlier this year. It's so hard with so much news coming out to, kind of remember when things happen, but it was either earlier this year or last year that Netflix actually was cracking down on using VPNs to access different versions of Netflix, because you're right, it's a content licensing issue, and maybe Netflix paid certain licensing fees for the U.S. but not in Canada, or in Europe but not in the U.S., things like that. So they banned it because their content providers were angry that they didn't pay for people in Norway to get let's say The Office, or at least the Office version of the U.S. in the U.S., and they were using VPNs to access that. So it sounds like your friend in the service. I don't think anyone blames him for wanting that, but yeah, Netflix and others are trying to crack down on that.
Sure, absolutely. And it's probably technically illegal. It's certainly against the intent of it, but it's probably illegal to do that
Oh, for sure.
already. And it's not as though it's a malicious thing. I mean, but you're not allowed to.
Yeah. So, and you're right. I was just thinking about China, and China has very, very similar policies that people use VPNs in China to get around the quote unquote Great Firewall of China. And it still happens. And I think it's still going to happen in Russia. And I think trying to find people, because VPNs are by nature, and this is something I actually wanted to mention to everyone, be careful of your VPN provider, because I've been hearing a lot of stories about VPNs that claim to, do what a VPN is supposed to do. And really, they don't redirect traffic. They don't obscure, kind of where your location is. And in a lot of cases, they actually track where you go and gather up that data and sell that data to companies. Like, they're actually worse than not using a VPN. I've heard that, yeah.
Yep, you're absolutely right. No, you're absolutely right.
So yeah, so just be careful and be sure to read reviews and use a very reputable VPN, because actually using one could be worse than not using one. So, but yeah, and I'm not going to say that this should happen in the U.S., because VPNs, like I said, very legitimate reasons for business
Absolutely.
or safety, security, privacy, things like that.
Yep, absolutely. No, I can't imagine that happening here, thankfully. But in countries where they limit, the content that citizens can get, that's really the only way to do it.
Right. Now, this next story, it was on the docket for yesterday. Unfortunately, fortunately, our guest ran long, and I didn't get a chance to bring this up. But hopefully you've had a chance to look at it, folks. If you're watching the video portion, we have pictures up right there you can check out. But this is about this coming from courts, and essentially they have photos of people. But the problem is that these people, you can see them. They're they look very realistic. Every one of them is a fake person. Every one of them was created by Nvidia, and essentially using an algorithm and artificial intelligence to create images of fake celebrities. And Mike, I'm not sure if you had a chance to look at them. They
Yeah.
look damn realistic.
They really do. I mean, I am not a celebrity watcher, so for all I know, they could have been actual celebrities.
Yeah,
I mean,
that
you easily could have fooled me.
yeah, well, that was the
They
intent behind it. Yeah, they and just real quick for everyone out there who wants to learn how they did this, they essentially gathered 3,000 celebrities. I'm not sure what qualifies someone as a celebrity. I don't think my face was in there, unfortunately, but essentially 3,000 people, and the artificial intelligence was able to kind of pick one or recreate one and change them based on the other 3,000 faces that they had. And so, like I think one, like the bottom left one, kind of looks like Aziz Ansari. One kind of looks like Beyonce. One kind of looks like Jennifer Love Hewitt. Like they kind of look like a lot of people, but they're absolutely fake. They're not actual people. But if you saw pictures of them, you go, I think I've seen that person before.
Right.
So
Yep, absolutely.
yeah, and the thing that a lot of people, or at least Nvidia and others kind of wanted to kind of bring up is the fact that and Mike, actually, if you scroll a bit further down, they have kind of a grid here of horses, sofas, flowers, churches, bikes. All of those are fake as well. None of those
Right.
are real. So the idea that you can create, it's not just photoshopping at this point. It's creating a photo from the ground up that is, that never existed, and that's going to be a problem for people when we talk about not believing everything you find online, because just because there's a picture of it doesn't mean it's true.
Right, absolutely. And especially if the computer can generate it by itself. It's not taking an artist to go in there and draw this. That's the crazy thing, is the
Yeah.
computer is figuring this out and creating an image based on other ones of that type.
Yeah, and they're talking about some different applications for this. I think spreading falsehoods and essentially, because if they can recreate a photo of someone who doesn't exist, that especially if you're an A-tier celebrity, that if you have thousands of photos of you from thousands of different angles, you could undoubtedly create a photorealistic image of a celebrity doing anything you want, essentially, in doing any activity in any position in any just anything,
And saying anything they want. You could have a completely false, news conference.
right? Yeah, and so don't believe everything that you see, but one place that this is going, that this has already started, is the fashion industry, where they're generating images of essentially models. They're using this this facial reconstruction kind of thing, and they're putting garments on one model, but then they're photoshopping or essentially changing the model's face over and over and over again, so it looks like a bunch of different models that best that they feel best fits the look. So this is already happening, and it's used in advertising right away.
Yeah, it's kind of creepy. It really is. I don't know what else to say about it.
Yeah, so just again, it was meant for yesterday. Didn't have time, but folks, just because you see an image does not mean. I mean, heck, even one of the images here in the article, they have a picture of a two-headed horse. A horse with heads
Whoops.
on both ends. I mean, it's just something that's certainly possible. So it was something I definitely want to bring up. But and folks, if you want to check that out, we have a link to it in the show notes if you wanted to take a look for yourself, because it's pretty impressive what Nvidia, of all people, is showing off with their hardware. So
Yeah, it really is.
yep. So with that one, I'll let you decide, because we have a couple here, such as SpaceX and this idea that you can steal cryptocurrency and Bitcoin.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. Let's hit that. So this was a virus, essentially, a piece of malware that was written to steal people's money, but through cryptocurrency, through Bitcoin. And basically, the way it worked, it was a really simple little virus that was written, a little malware, and all it did was it looked for you to copy and paste a key for cryptocurrency, for an address for someone to say you were going to send Ben some money through Bitcoin. You'd copy and paste the chain to send it over to them, and whenever you go to paste it, they would just replace his with theirs. So instead of sending Ben the money, you'd be sending it to this malware author.
And that's the
Really
thing.
simple, but really creative because it just looks like gibberish to a human. You'd never notice that when you pasted it wasn't quite right.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say was that these Bitcoin wallet addresses or IDs, they're 30, 60 characters long, something like that. There's no
Right.
way you can kind of say, oh, that doesn't look like mine.
Yeah, you'd have
It's
to
really hard to.
really be paying
Yeah.
attention to realize that, hey, mine ends in 845, not 877.
Right. So, and according to the article that you have here, about $150,000 worth already stolen. It's
Yeah,
pretty
that's pretty
impressive.
crazy.
Yeah. So, and obviously this is a big deal. Let's see what the price. I always like to look at the price of Bitcoin today as we do these kind of reports because check it out, it's up to $6,500. I mean, just about a
Yeah,
week ago, it was about $5,000. So
I
super
think it's at a new
profitable.
high right now.
Oh yeah, it's hitting new highs every single day. It's
Yep.
$6,500. It's super impressive. And cryptocurrency, we just had a company on that is starting their own cryptocurrency, but it's a booming field, and I think one that has a lot of growing to do in terms of security, ease of use, and things like that. But these stories that you're finding, that you found, they're interesting because they show the weaknesses in a system like this. That it's kind of like mugging, but instead it's a little code that, like you said, doesn't do anything other than just change your copy and paste function to change what you paste.
Right. I mean, you could imagine, if you've used PayPal, for example, if you were going to send, money to Ben using PayPal, you'd copy and paste his email address in there, but you would notice that that was changed. But in the case of this cryptocurrency, it just looks like, code. It's just a number, random numbers and letters.
Yep. So and of course the funny thing is that the way that Bitcoin works is that of course there's the blockchain which is a big ledger, and one of our guests used that and it definitely fits. But essentially you can see how much Bitcoin is in that particular wallet. You don't know who owns
Right.
it, but you can see it. So they said that as of the time that they wrote this article, they could see that it had 23.21 Bitcoin, or about $150,000 worth. So, it's funny that you can actually see the money going away. You just can't get it back.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
mhm,
I thought it was just so creative.
yeah, no, it's, and something that obviously anti-malware, antivirus would hopefully catch it eventually, but very, very simple solution. So with that being said, now I wanted to move on to this next one because it wouldn't be a show with Mike Cermak if we didn't talk about something that Elon Musk was doing. Honestly,
Right.
I was surprised that you didn't send us a link to the Boring Company because they just had a couple of
Right. Oh, I
announcements.
should have. Yeah.
Yeah,
We
maybe.
got to see some pictures of the Boring Company's latest work.
Yeah, we have not talked about that on the show yet, so maybe we'll do that, in a minute. But in the meantime, though, you have one about SpaceX, and to a certain degree, I like that it's become so routine that I don't really. No, I don't want to say that I don't care because it's super interesting, but I like that it's so routine. It's like, well, of course they did. It feels good. So talk about SpaceX and this landing.
Yeah, so the crazy thing that SpaceX is doing, which everyone should know by now, is reusing the rockets. So instead of, sending them up and letting them come back down and burn up and then build a new one, they're trying to land them and reuse them. And this was the 13th Falcon 9 rocket of this year to come down and land, but unfortunately had a little bit of a fire upon landing. It turns out rocket fuel, sometimes tends to burn a little more than what you want it to. The fire eventually went out, but it made for some pretty cool pictures. But it's amazing to watch these landings. If you watch the videos of these, I mean, it looks like you're watching it in reverse. You see this rocket coming down with the boosters, burning because it's resisting gravity. It's slowing itself down, but it really just looks like a rocket taking off played in reverse.
Yeah, and I think it gives you that look because it's not, it's not someone sitting there with controls and, kind of like a game console, and you kind of, human guide it. But because it's so perfectly guided by, just by programming and, of course, I'm sure tons of math and on the fly calculations, that it's so perfect You're right. It just looks like something played in reverse.
It's
And
amazing.
yeah,
It really is. And it's something that so many experts said just couldn't be done. You couldn't build something that could withstand, the enough forces of launch and coming back to Earth to be able to use it again. And here they are just doing what people say you can't do.
I'm super surprised that I think it was like in 2014 or 2015 we saw the first images of them trying to land it on barges out in the ocean.
Right.
Those
Didn't go as well.
yeah, those went down like a sack of potatoes, and they landed with as much grace. So eventually they were given permission to essentially land on land and launch pads, and now seeing this image that or at least in this article, they're landing it back on barges, and it's working. It's not just landing on a flat pad, but it's also landing on a pad that is shifting with the waves and
Right.
and whatnot.
Bobbing around in the water. And it's really remarkable. I don't know if you saw it, Ben, but about a month ago, SpaceX posted on YouTube a collection of failures of just all of their different rockets exploding. And I'll have to find it here, see what it was called. But
I think I did remember seeing that, and I think it was Elon Musk himself who tweeted out the video of check out all of our failures. Like he thought, like I don't know if he thought it was funny or he knows how far they've come, but
I
yeah,
think that's just it, to show how far they've come and to have some humility that they're not trying to pretend that they've never failed before.
yeah. So and I'm sure out there if you find SpaceX failure compilation, it's looks to be about 2 minutes long, and I think we found it here where it's they have had some very spectacular failures. The video I think is all the more interesting because SpaceX with their jets and their rockets, it's not just like a standard video that's taken from afar. Instead, like SpaceX straps, and I think you found it's probably similar to the one I found, but
This one is the official one that SpaceX posted. I think a lot of people have made their own compilations, but this is one that
you're right
they made. And the SpaceX one's called "How Not to Land an Orbital Rocket Booster."
Right, and again, I think what makes these videos so cool is that they strap their rockets from tip to tail with video camera, so you see like a first person's perspective as it comes crashing down on top of the barge. You see tons of different angles. I mean, it's as well produced as any Hollywood footage of a rocket crash.
Yeah, it is. It's crazy to see.
Yeah, and so
I'm watching the video right now as we speak and just seeing, and they have funny little comments on them that, some of them say, ran out of liquid oxygen, ran out of hydraulic fluid, and, whatever went wrong. And one of them shows just a destroyed rocket, and it says it's just a scratch.
right.
Or, well, technically it did land, just not in one piece. It's just great little.
Personally, my favorite,
yeah.
Personally, my favorite one, I think it was like June 2016, where one of the landing legs failed, and it just like you see it land, and then it just slowly starts to tip, and then it explodes as it falls. I mean, it's just, but
it would be so heartbreaking. And they have, they say it's a rapid, unscheduled disassembly.
Right. So yeah. But SpaceX has come a long way, and there was an article, we're not going to get into it, but just yesterday, I think it was Bank of America, of all places, said that the space industry is going to be, I think, a $3 trillion industry by 2050 or something like that. Where, where right now, thanks to SpaceX and other private, Virgin Galactic, things like that, it's already a $300 billion industry, and it's only going to get, more of an everyday thing. So.
That's absolutely right. I mean, and the point you made earlier, we don't even know that these launches are taking place anymore because they're so routine. You don't even see them on TV. I was going to say unless something goes wrong, but often cases, even if it does go wrong, it's just not big news anymore. It used to be such a big deal every time any kind of rocket was launched, but it's just so routine. It happens all the time, and we're not even aware of it.
But that's what we need. We need routine. We
do.
Yeah.
That's how we're going to move forward.
Absolutely. So with that being said, why don't we, let's see, we have time for maybe 2 more stories, and let's see which ones really stood out. Yeah, I guess we can talk about Disney. So for anyone out there who's been living under a rock, I kind of include myself in that because I don't watch, television, so I don't get my daily dose of advertising as required by the FCC. But apparently there's a new Star Wars movie coming out. It's kind of a big deal. And something that Disney is doing, and I think it's because Disney is so dominant, and they've just been having hit after hit with their superhero movies, and of course now with what do you call it, Star Wars and their reboot. Well, they're asking for 65% of ticket sales, and some other demands include the fact that the largest auditorium in a theater that carries the movie has to be dedicated to only running Star Wars for 4 weeks.
How silly is that?
And just so you get a little bit of perspective, most movies ask for about 45 to 55%, 60 if it's a kind of a summer blockbuster, and Disney's like, we're gonna want 65, and also apparently every company is gonna have their own version of the contract that's watermarked. So if you see a contract leaked with kind of the terms of what they're really asking for, then they're going to charge you another 5% on top of that. Kind of makes it like not even profitable for these theaters to even
Really,
show
I'm
this movie.
shocked that they get that much. I mean, I didn't know anything about the back end of theaters, but 65%, holy cow.
65, as much as 70 if they happen to break the terms of their contract. And yeah, it really goes to show that movie theaters, even though people are probably going to be flooding and packing the theaters, they're probably not going to make much money on this. Disney's going to be making it hand over fist. But yeah, popcorn sales, it's really the way that they make money.
It is, it is. The popcorn and the $4 candy and the $5 soda.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll definitely be seeing. But of course, I think a lot of people, regardless of how the economics of it all breaks down, they're definitely going to be going to see this movie because it's going to be one of the biggest of the winter kind of breaks. So yeah. With that being said, again, that's kind of a fun factoid more than actually trying to influence what you go see. We have time for the last one, and AR, we talked about on the show before, augmented reality, the idea that you can put items, there, but not physically. Amazon is looking to include it in a way to shop for household items because Amazon is not a physical retail location. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, it's a good idea in a sense. So their idea on it is that you can pick up your phone, you can download their Amazon app and say that you want to look at a toaster or whatever, and then through the camera of your phone, you're seeing your table in front of you and the toaster on it. And that way you can kind of get a feel for the size of it and how it would fit in the location and so on. And it makes a lot more sense, I think, for bigger items. If you're looking at a dining room table or a couch or something like that and want to get a feel for how it's going to fit in the room or go with the room, that makes more sense to me. But I don't think most people buy those kind of items from Amazon, at least not on a regular basis, but maybe they would if they could get a feel for it. I don't know. It seems a little gimmicky to me.
You know where this would have helped actually in our household because we bought one. It's on my to-do list to actually put it together, but it's kind of like a whole wall entertainment system.
Yeah, sure.
It's just one of those. And if I could have because we did buy it from Amazon, and if I could have went to Amazon and done an AR view and see how if it would have even fit, because we used a tape measure, measured everything 15 times. But if the AR could have been somewhat accurate, it would have been so much easier just to pull out the phone and just kind of stand back and see if it really would have fit. Because if it's accurate
and not
to
just
a couple
how
inches,
it fits, but the feel of it. Does it
That too.
look like it's? I'm not an interior decorator. And that's probably why this app would be more useful to me because I can't visualize those things very often unless I can see it. I think that would be really useful to be able to see, and maybe they would be able to sell more furniture type items with it. I can't imagine using it for like the demo here is kind of using kitchen appliances. That I don't see as useful.
Yeah, I think that's just kind of an easy kind of thing to think about because you can move around it and it shows depth and kind of angles. But I think for larger purchases, sofas, furniture, things like that, it makes more sense. But hey, in the meantime, everyone, if you want computer help, if you want to check out kind of what we did here today, check out computeramerica.com. We have links in the show notes and a link to, of course, techguide.org, which Mike, still a great place to go for computer advice.
Of course it is. Yeah, it's free technical support. Go there, post a question, a volunteer will try to help you out, and you might be able to help someone else out while you're there.
Absolutely. So, and yeah, be sure to do that. And Mike, I want to say once again, thank you so much, and happy to have you on. I know that next time you join us, it will be after Thanksgiving. So, happy Thanksgiving. Hope it goes well.
You too.
Yeah, and yeah, everyone, thanks for tuning in to Computer America. Will be back tomorrow, as we have on the show with us. Let me get this straight. 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern, of course. Minds. M-I-N-D-S. I don't want to say mimes. Minds.com. Check it out. And hey, could be very cool. So everyone, check us out tomorrow, same time, same place. Have a great one. Bye-bye.